Jean-Jacques Rousseau, one of the most influential thinkers of the Enlightenment, lived in a time of profound social and political upheaval. Monarchies ruled much of Europe, inequality was entrenched, and the ideas of individual freedom and collective governance were only beginning to take shape. Against this backdrop, Rousseau's The Social Contract emerged as a revolutionary text, challenging existing power structures and envisioning a new foundation for human society. At its core, Rousseau's work asks a timeless and fundamental question. How can we create a just society? One where individuals can retain their freedom, yet live together harmoniously under collective governance. This paradox, balancing personal liberty with the needs of the community, is the heart of the social contract. Rousseau's vision isn't just a relic of the past. It resonates deeply with today's challenges. In an age where debates on individual rights, social equity, and the role of government dominate headlines, the social contract invites us to reflect on the principles underpinning modern democracies. What does it mean to truly belong to a society? And how do we navigate the tension between freedom and responsibility? In this video, we'll embark on a journey through Rousseau's groundbreaking ideas, exploring his vision of governance, freedom, equality, and the social bonds that tie us together. Let's dive in. At the heart of Rousseau's philosophy lies the concept of the social contract, a powerful idea that redefines the relationship between individuals and society. Rousseau argues that humans are born free, but are often shackled by the constraints of unjust systems. To break free, individuals must come together to form a collective agreement, a social contract. This contract is not about surrendering freedom to a ruler, as Hobbes suggested, nor about protecting pre-existing rights, as Locke proposed. For Rousseau, the social contract is about creating a community where each person, while uniting with others, remains as free as before. How is this possible? Through the idea of the general will. The general will represents the collective interest of society, transcending individual desires. When citizens agree to abide by laws that reflect the general will, they are, in effect, obeying rules they have set for themselves. This, Rousseau argues, is the essence of true freedom, not the absence of restraint, but the ability to live according to principles one has chosen as part of a collective. This vision marks a stark departure from earlier thinkers. Hobbes believed that humans needed an all-powerful sovereign to impose order and prevent chaos. Locke, on the other hand, focused on safeguarding individual rights and property through limited government. Rousseau challenges both perspectives by emphasizing the transformative power of a society built on equality, shared purpose, and mutual respect. In Rousseau's view, the social contract is not a compromise, but a moral commitment to create a society where everyone contributes to and benefits from the common good. It's a radical, idealistic vision of governance, one that has shaped the foundation of modern democracies and continues to provoke debate. Central to Rousseau's The Social Contract is the concept of the general will, a profound and at times controversial idea. The general will represents the collective good, a unified expression of what is best for society as a whole. It transcends the narrow desires of individuals or groups, focusing instead on what ensures equality, justice, and the well-being of all. But what exactly is the general will, and how does it differ from the will of all? Rousseau draws an important distinction here. The will of all is simply the sum of individual preferences, often conflicting, influenced by self-interest, and prone to factionalism. The general will, however, emerges from a shared commitment to the common good, even if it occasionally conflicts with personal interests. For Rousseau, the general will is the foundation of legitimate sovereignty. It is through the collective pursuit of this will that laws gain their moral authority. Laws, in this sense, are not imposed by an external power, but are expressions of the general will, crafted by and for the people. When citizens obey these laws, they are not submitting to an external force. Rather, they are following principles they have agreed upon as members of a just society. This idea is deeply democratic and egalitarian. It demands that individuals look beyond their personal desires and participate in shaping the collective destiny of the community. Rousseau acknowledges that this is not always easy. Self-interest can cloud judgment, and factions can distort the general will. However, he believes that when citizens are guided by reason, empathy, and a sense of justice, the general will can prevail. The general will is not just a theoretical concept, it is a call to action. It challenges us to prioritize the collective good, to engage in public life with a sense of responsibility, and to ensure that governance is rooted in fairness and equality. Rousseau's vision, though idealistic, continues to resonate as a guiding principle for democratic societies, striving to balance individual freedom with the needs of the community. True freedom and equality lie at the heart of a just society. His vision is both revolutionary and deeply tied to the human experience. But how can individuals remain free while living under the constraints of collective governance? Rousseau redefines freedom, moving beyond the idea of living without restrictions. To him, true freedom comes from autonomy, obeying only the laws one has prescribed for oneself as part of the collective. By participating in the creation of laws through the general will, individuals are not enslaved by external forces, but are instead empowered as active members of a shared community. This harmony between individual autonomy and collective responsibility is, for Rousseau, the cornerstone of freedom. However, Rousseau warns that freedom cannot exist without equality. Equality, in his view, is a precondition for a functioning social contract. Without it, power imbalances and privilege undermine the shared commitment to the common good. In a society where some wield disproportionate influence, the general will become distorted, favoring the few over the many. Rousseau critiques the entrenched inequalities of his time, social, economic, and political, arguing that they erode trust and disrupt societal harmony. He recognizes that inequality fosters division, competition, and resentment, making it impossible to achieve the unity required for the social contract to work. His solution? A system where laws and institutions ensure fairness, curbing excessive wealth and privilege while providing security and dignity for all citizens. This vision is bold, demanding a reimagining of how societies distribute power and resources. For Rousseau, equality is not about absolute sameness, but about fairness, a level playing field where no one has the means to oppress others and everyone has the opportunity to thrive. Rousseau's ideas on freedom and equality challenge us to reconsider our priorities as a society. They ask us to reflect on the ways inequality shapes our world and to imagine a future where autonomy and collective well-being coexist. His vision is a call to action, a reminder that freedom without equality is hollow, and equality without freedom is incomplete. Rousseau's The Social Contract dives deeply into the question of governance, examining how power should be distributed and exercised to align with the principles of freedom, equality, and the general will. For Rousseau, no single form of government is universally ideal. Instead, the structure of governance must reflect the needs and circumstances of the community it serves. He begins by outlining three primary forms of government: democracy, aristocracy, and monarchy. Each has its strengths and weaknesses, depending on the size, culture, and complexity of the state. Rousseau sees democracy as the purest form, where all citizens directly participate in decision-making. However, he acknowledges that it works best in small, cohesive communities where people share common values and interests. In larger, more diverse societies, democracy becomes unwieldy, prone to division, and difficult to sustain. Aristocracy, the rule of a select few, is more practical for mid-sized states, provided the leaders genuinely serve the public good. Rousseau warns, however, that aristocracy can easily devolve into elitism, where power is concentrated in the hands of those who prioritize personal gain over the general will. Monarchy, or rule by a single leader, is seen as effective for large states that require centralized decision-making. Yet, Rousseau is wary of monarchy's inherent risks: unchecked power, corruption, and the distance it creates between rulers and the people. Despite these analyses, Rousseau emphasizes that the form of government is less important than how it operates in practice. The key is that power must always remain rooted in the sovereign authority of the people. Governments are merely intermediaries, tasked with executing the general will. If they fail to uphold this responsibility, the social contract is broken, and the people have the right to reclaim their sovereignty. For Rousseau, the law plays a central role in maintaining the balance between power and participation. Laws, when rooted in the general will, act as the foundation of a just society. But these laws must be crafted with care, guided by what Rousseau calls the legislator, a wise and impartial figure who understands the needs of the community and can shape laws that promote harmony and unity. The legislator is not a ruler, but a visionary, helping society align with its higher ideals. Ultimately, Rousseau's vision of governance is not about imposing power, but about channeling it to serve the collective good. It is a delicate balancing act between authority and participation, freedom and responsibility. His ideas challenge us to think critically about how we govern ourselves and remind us that a just government is one that always reflects the will and welfare of its people. For Rousseau, the breakdown of the social contract signals the beginning of a society's decline. At the heart of this collapse lies the corruption of civic virtue and the unchecked rise of inequality. When personal ambition, greed, and self-interest overpower the collective good, the foundations of a just society begin to crumble. Rousseau warns that inequality, both social and economic, is a corrosive force. In an unequal society, the wealthy and powerful prioritize their own interests, exploiting systems meant to serve everyone. Laws, instead of embodying the general will, become tools for protecting privilege and consolidating power. Over time, this leads to resentment, division, and the erosion of trust between citizens and their government. The decay of civic virtue is another critical factor. Rousseau believed that for a society to thrive, its citizens must remain actively engaged in public life and committed to the common good. However, when people grow complacent or detached from civic responsibilities, they lose sight of the principles that hold the social contract together. This disengagement paves the way for tyranny, as unchecked rulers seize power under the guise of restoring order or stability. Rousseau also highlights the dangers of despotism, the concentration of absolute power in the hands of one individual or group. In a despotic state, the will of the people is silenced, and the social contract is entirely subverted. Despotism thrives on fear and oppression, stifling freedom and replacing justice with authoritarian control. Yet, Rousseau's critique is not merely a condemnation, it is a warning. He urges societies to remain vigilant against the forces of corruption, to nurture equality, and to cultivate civic virtue as a defense against decay. When citizens actively participate in governance and remain devoted to the collective good, they strengthen the social contract and ensure its resilience. Ultimately, Rousseau's insights challenge us to reflect on the fragility of just societies. His words remind us that freedom and equality are not guaranteed. They require constant effort, vigilance, and a shared commitment to the principles that bind us together. Without these, the social contract falters, and the promise of a just society fades into history. Today, Rousseau's The Social Contract is more than a philosophical text. It is a blueprint for justice and governance that continues to shape our world today. Its influence is evident in the foundations of modern democracies, where the principles of collective decision-making, equality before the law, and the pursuit of the common good echo Rousseau's vision. Yet, the questions Rousseau raised remain strikingly relevant. In an age of rapid globalization, rising inequality, and political polarization, we are still grappling with how to balance individual freedoms with the needs of the collective. How can we ensure that governments act in the interest of all citizens rather than catering to the privileged few? How do we prevent personal ambition and self-interest from undermining the common good? The issues of inequality and civic disengagement, which Rousseau warned about centuries ago, are at the heart of today's challenges. Economic disparities and social divisions test the resilience of our institutions, while widespread apathy towards civic participation threatens the vitality of democracy itself. Rousseau's work also invites us to reflect on the role of government. How should power be distributed? What safeguards are needed to prevent corruption and despotism? And perhaps most importantly, how can we as citizens ensure that the social contract remains alive, anchored in justice, equality, and mutual respect? These are not merely philosophical questions. They are calls to action. Rousseau reminds us that a just society is not a static achievement, but a continuous effort. It demands vigilance, participation, and an unwavering commitment to the principles of freedom and equality. As we conclude this exploration of the social contract, we are left with a challenge. Are we, in our time, living up to the ideals Rousseau envisioned? Or are we allowing the forces of inequality and self-interest to erode the foundation of collective governance? The answers lie not only in the systems we build, but in the choices we make together.